So Kramer, what do you think about the technical craft when it comes to here?
I didn't think it was great. Like there's a lot of, I gave it a 3. That's about
Yeah.
it. We talked about it enough. I mean, the visual effects don't look great. The score was fine, but it felt like it was too. My expectations might have been a little too high for Alan Silvestri, and it was fine. Nothing bad about it, but it wasn't like it didn't stand out or move the scenes as well. It wasn't as memorable for me, but he was probably the best part of the movie. But the acting wasn't great. The directing wasn't great. Cinematography wasn't great. The light, it just was a lot of dull all around. So
that's very fair. And by the way, our scores are out of 10, 10 being the best score you can get. I gave this movie a 5, and here's why. I think I just wanted to commend them for attempting the challenge of something previously undone. In 2024, I gotta give it up for someone who's willing, like that's the one thing I could say about this film is I've never quite seen anything like this. And what they're attempting here is definitely very unique from a visual standpoint, from a cinematic standpoint. It makes it almost that much more frustrating that they didn't pull it off better, that they didn't give this concept a stronger script or a better edit or support these actors more. But yeah, the acting is not great. In some cases, in some instances, it's downright bad. The writing is not great, and in some instances is downright laughably bad. The editing is frenetic and self-conscious and does not serve the story and does not help the audience latch into it. The only reason I can give it a 5 is like for the attempt at doing something bold and groundbreaking.
I could see that.
And pulling that off from a technical standpoint reasonably well. Even Alan Silvestri's score you mentioned, and I just, man, boy, it felt so much like Zemeckis and Eric Roth were trying to recreate Forrest Gump, and it felt like Silvestri was trying to recreate Forrest Gump. I was like, it literally sounded like from the opening notes of the score, I was like, oh, for real? He was doing like there's a little piano motif that happens in Forrest Gump, this bum 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 that opens the movie Forrest Gump, and there's something that sounds almost identical at the beginning of here, and then he has the same kind of colors that he's finding. And this is a thing that I don't know, I just was like, sometimes these older heads in the filmmaking world just haven't evolved to the point where I'm like, hey, film scores have changed, and the way that we score films is, I don't know, it just felt like an old-fashioned, worse, watered down version of the Forrest Gump score to me, and I was not. I didn't really. I wasn't particularly moved by it. What do you think of the ending of here? And this is an ending we have not discussed. But
no, the camera does move.
This is I'm going to say this.
Go ahead.
I'll say this for me. The ending is maybe the scene that got to me emotionally more than any other scene. And maybe it's just the satisfying release of the camera moving for the first time in the entire film. The camera does move, but what happens is, and it's something that I think everyone in the audience knew was going to happen because of how heavy-handed the script is. Tom Hanks brings in his estranged wife who has Alzheimer's back into their home that they raised their daughter in, and sits her down in the movie. And they recap the movie, and she sort of starts to remember their life there. And even though the entire film she had been, she had hated living there, she says, oh, I know what our lives happened here. I love it here. And for as frustrating as this film was, this got into my cynical heart a little bit. This camera movement off of the wall and this, but I don't know. I think stuff like that's always going to get to me. Alzheimer's patients having a moment of clarity is always going to be kind of emotional.
I think ending. Go ahead.
I gave it a 6 just because I think it's the thing that worked better than anything else, better than almost any other scene for me in the film. And maybe that's high. And maybe I'm being really generous with that score, but
more generous than me. I gave it another 3, but it, just cause it was good. But then once it pulls out, again, Robin Wright, oh yeah, she loved it here, and even though she really didn't, but she like, it pans around and then it goes back and it goes, all the way to the one house that's been there the whole time. It goes up there and you see the weird hummingbird, but
Yep.
that felt so fake and so plastic to me
Yeah, it
that I was like totally taken out. Like, wow, that just looks horrible.
felt
It
like a
just does not
Pixar
look
movie.
good. Yeah,
It felt
like it
like it
just,
felt like the end of like Toy Story or something. Like it just looked like a
yeah,
cartoon.
yeah. It's
And
like it just looks hollow. So I gave it a 3.
yeah,
I didn't love it, and plus the fact that it wasn't. I mean, yeah, it's an ending, but like it didn't feel satisfying because like, what's the resolution? Like they're still divorced. And it is nice
yeah,
that he stays with her, but it just, and it's not that it was, it just was like, oh, okay. It just wasn't satisfying. Like, oh, okay. Like okay. Yeah.
yeah.
There's,
For me, it was the emotional impact of these people. Just be. It's sort of like that scene in Stranger Than Fiction when Will Ferrell holds the
yeah,
manuscript
yeah,
of
yeah.
his life,
Yeah.
and he weighs it and he decides that's good enough. And there's something about that to me that will always work for me narratively,
Yeah.
of like if it's a movie about life, kind of like Boyhood or anything.
Right.
If it's a movie just about just the mundanities of life, when
Yeah.
there's that scene where people just reflect on their life and just say, okay, that was it, this
Yeah.
here in this room where we did, for better or worse. There's something about that will always get to me. So maybe 6 is a little high, but I gotta say, and I didn't say this at the beginning, the same way when we talked about Forrest Gump, I said I really was looking for things to critique. I really wanted to approach this with a more critical eye, and I wound
Yeah.
up just still loving it and thinking that it's great. I wanted to love here. I really
So
wanted
did I.
to disagree with the critics. I really wanted to say I think they're wrong, and I think this movie's really strong. I think this movie's maybe a masterpiece. I was looking for everything I could to like about this movie, and I think that's why the ending at least sort of worked for me, because I was like, I need something I can latch
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I can see that.
I don't think it was a very good movie, but
Yeah.
I wanted to like it.
I know. I want to like movies. I want to like them. And that's generally why I do like a lot of movies. But this one just, yeah, it was just, I had the same reaction like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're right. Like, it really wasn't that great. So,
Yeah. Rewatchability. What's your score?
2. I don't really care if I see it again.
Yeah.
And also just the fact that like, okay, there's not much for me to go back to that I like, oh my gosh, that one scene. Do you remember that scene? Like, that was so good. There's not much to go back to. I'm sure that you could probably find, some deeper meaning in it, but it just wasn't engaging enough for me to care as much about wanting to rewatch it.
I could see myself maybe watching this movie one more time in my life, maybe just for the basic fact that there's not really anything else that's like it. From the standpoint of how it was constructed, just to see, and maybe just to see if I missed anything. Maybe on a second watch, I go, oh, you know what? I never noticed that, or I doubt that I'll have a much different experience with it. But I put my score at 3 for rewatchability. I give it a 3 out of 10.
Nice.
On the off chance that maybe I watch it one more time, but I there's also a high likelihood that I never watch this movie ever again.
Yeah.
Cultural relevance. What do you got it at?
I put it at a 2 because it's not doing anything. It has not made that much money at the box office. A lot of people aren't seeing it. Not a lot of people are talking about it. So, it's not doing much. And they're leaning so heavily on the Forrest Gump aspect of it that it's not really its own movie in some ways. So
I'm gonna kind of cheat here. I put a question mark. I'm an abstention vote, because I do believe that there's the possibility that this modality could be interesting to filmmakers going forward, and they could go, okay, here it didn't work, but I think I've got a concept that could work for a stationary camera that doesn't cut, that look.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we could see something. I wonder if we could even see something revolutionary, like a horror movie or something, where it's like the camera's like stationary, and it's like, someone who somehow finds a way to make it work. And maybe it's a concept that can't sustain anything longer than 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe it can't be a 90-minute film. But I think that there could be something influential about someone doing it first and breaking the ground and being the first one when it comes to but I don't think that the actual culture is going to like be moved or changed by here. So probably my score is pretty low. It's probably where yours is, like a 2, but I also don't know. I don't know that this won't have some kind of effect on filmmakers who then will make future films that will be better than here using the same kind of conceit, and that will have, so I don't know. Subjective score for here.
Yeah, mine, I put it at a 3, and I could maybe get it higher, but it's not horrible. Like it was bad. That's just how I feel. I didn't love it. It did have a very interesting concept that I felt like very wasted by the gimmick of not moving the camera. If you just move the camera, I would have been much more invested in these characters and their emotions and everything. So disappointing.
Or write them a better script and give the actors more support. And then you can do the same. One of those two things. 3 for me as well. As much as I wanted to give it every point I possibly could, the only thing I can really say about this movie is that it attempted something. It took a big swing. It tried something, and I can give it all the kudos in the world for that. The execution kind of wasn't there on every front that it needed to be there on, and it was really just weird to watch a movie with like actors I really like and go, nobody's really showing up to do solid work in this thing. And also, but I'm like also listening to the words going, it's because the script kind of is laughably bad. And then the editing and the construction of the thing narratively just it wasn't helpful or useful to the audience, in my opinion. It didn't help us latch into anything. And so, I just I really wanted to like here, and I didn't very much, and put it at a 3 as well.
Yep, so, that's it. That's how it is.
That's how it goes down sometimes. Robert Zemeckis has made a lot of movies. He's made some really good ones. He's made some really mediocre ones, and he's made here.
Yeah. And going with what you're saying, I do appreciate that he does take extremely big swings. He is very daring, but most of the time he strikes out. But every once in a while he gets a complete grand slam, and he did a lot more in his earlier career, but now it seems to be fewer and farther between, whatever it is.
Did you see here, everybody? If you did, let us know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And keep listening to the Wonder Podcast. We got more and more. There's just it's award season. It's going to be good movies coming out here. We're going to be doing good movies. Gladiator 2. We're going to see what's up with the ships in the Colosseum and all kinds of stuff. So,
Wicked is coming out too.
Wicked Part 1. We'll see how it goes. So everybody stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next one. And take care out there. Okay.
See you later.
Bye.